Hi everybody and welcome back to another video. So today I am reading an opinion piece that I wrote called The Giving Tree and the Giving Wife, and I was inspired to write this after watching the 1980s movie about Betty Broderick. If you don't know, she actually unalived her husband and was in a huge custody battle. And it was like she pretty much became a bit of a celebrity. Perhaps she was like maybe the Gypsy Rose of the 80s, like obviously very different crimes, but Gypsy had her crime and now she's a celebrity pretty much. And Betty Broderick became somewhat of a celebrity as well after what had happened, because with Gypsy, Gypsy has claimed abuse and that people feel sorry for her because she was trapped. That's what her official story is. And with Betty, her official story was that her husband was a narcissistic abuser and she was driven to it, as much as Gypsy says she was driven to do what she did. So I watched the 1980s movie, and yeah, Betty Broderick is still alive today as far as I know. I googled her when I wrote this and she's in jail, and people write to her, and I didn't realize how common it was to write to people in jail. It's crazy. But anyway, and also I somehow came across the book The Giving Tree. I don't know how I came across that. Spending way too much time on the internet. And yeah, so I'm going to read this piece. I can't remember exactly what it's about. It's sort of, oh my goodness, my phone is going off. I apologize if you heard that. But yeah, it's basically about, I suppose, identity, and that sort of thing. So let's get into it. The Giving Tree and the Giving Wife. The Giving Tree, first published in 1964, tells the story of a young boy who plays in the shade of a tree, happy and carefree. As his life progresses, he returns to the tree throughout the different stages of his life, with the tree offering up all she has to him at each stage. But he rejects her for consumerism and to pursue what we all pursue in life: a house, a family, a job, possessions. Over the years, the tree offers all she has to the boy, firstly so that he may play and swing from her branches as a child. Then he returns as a young man in need of an income, and she offers up her apples to the boy so that he may sell them and make money. Then, when he is middle-aged, she offers up her branches so that he may build a house, then her trunk so that he may build a boat and sail away as an old man. Finally, when he returns for the last time as a much older man, she has nothing left to give. She is now nothing but a worn-down stump. But even then, she invites him to sit. At first I took this as an environmental analogy, and I would dare say it is, but this multifaceted tale is also the story of an empath and a narcissist, the story of a mother and a child, the story of religion. It is ultimately the story of sacrifice, of an everlasting and unflinching love, pure, simple, beautiful, or perhaps poison in disguise. Teaching children to give until they have nothing left isn't exactly healthy. And so, the story comes full circle. The boy who was one with nature as a child, before the ways of the world changed him, is now old and will soon return to nature in death. He killed the tree, and now both will soon die. Perhaps there is no better analogy for a toxic relationship. It is this image of the all-giving lover, the all-giving mother, that is both our legacy and our burden. Steeped deeply in religious roots, the idea of a self-sacrificing Christ-like figure for the greater good. Many of us grew up in Christian homes, or at least practicing a religion of some sort, and if we didn't, we at least had scripture at school. The idea of a perfect love falls short because no one can do it all. Whether that is as mothers or lovers, women must not be like the Giving Tree. They must let themselves be replenished by the rains, by fresh soil, so that they will not wither and die, but blossom and flourish. One woman who tried to create this so-called perfect life is Betty Broderick. First glance at Betty back in the 80s and she appeared to be the all-American soccer mum. Her perfectly styled blonde hair, her expensive clothes, her confident demeanour, and her sweet chirpy voice. She looked like the type of person you'd happily have a chat with at the school gate when dropping off your kids. And this is the issue with Betty Broderick. What was bubbling beneath the surface was a much different story. Betty worked hard as a teacher to put her husband Dan Broderick through medical school and then Harvard Law School. She had no other ambitions in life but to have a large Catholic family. She poured her whole being into being Mrs. Dan Broderick. That was until he had, as she put it, the classic midlife crisis, and divorced Betty to marry his receptionist Linda Colcaner. This idea of the perfect family was catapulted into living rooms across America and eventually around the world in the 1950s with shows such as Leave It to Beaver, and then in the 1970s with shows like The Brady Bunch. Even though the idea of what a family looked like was slowly changing, common themes often included beautiful children, beautiful homes, the thin wife and mother with perfect hair, clothes and makeup solving first world problems, all in the tidy space of a half-hour episode, just in time for the handsome TV father to come home and enjoy a dinner on the table. Betty really was the modern-day June Cleaver and the epitome of the perfect, wealthy American upper class. Betty was in for a spectacular fall after rising to such heights. She eventually took matters into her own hands, shooting both Dan and his new bride months after the wedding. Betty is still in prison today for the 1989 murders. Flash forward 30-something years later, and her attitudes on perfectionism, the supermum tag, and what a modern family actually looks like have drastically changed. A generation of women trying to be supermums, just like Betty, realize that perhaps you can't have it all, but if you can, perhaps just not all at once. It was the exhaustion of seeking perfection that caused the new wave of parenting and feminism that gave birth to wine mums culture and paved the way for bloggers like Constance Hall to fill the void in between. Constance, who rose to fame after sharing a very realistic blog on parent sex, has always kept it real. She often bears her tummy and thoughts for us all. To see her open and blunt portrayals of parenthood have led to a mass following of people on Facebook and a successful foray of business endeavors such as a clothing line, a makeup line, and other various products, including a book, of which I do own a signed copy. Upon receiving my book in the mail, I was impressed by the beautiful cover image of Constance on a throne, her hair adorned with gorgeous flowers, indeed looking like a queen, as she refers to her followers. But what was even more glorious was to remove the dust jacket to reveal an image of Constance and her family on the cover of them in their messy, lived-in house. That's the Constance we love, keeping it unapologetically real. This dose of realism is catching on, as people are less impressed with Instagram filters and calling out the facade of social media. It seems the strive for perfectionism has always existed, but it is exhausting. So is Betty Broderick suffering from narcissistic personality disorder, amongst other diagnoses, or just a woman pushed too far by society's expectations placed upon her, and the pressure she also placed upon herself? In her 2019 TED Talk, Liz Carlisle, a blogger and podcaster, challenges mothers to be more selfish. She came to this revelation after an experience of holding her beautiful 6-month-old baby boy in the bathtub as tears streamed down her face, causing her to question why was she in such a dark place. This was her aha moment. She had not been practicing self-care. She remembered her mother's words and decided to take up running and found herself again. It made her more available to her husband, more available to give to her baby, because she felt fulfilled within herself. In 2021, people are finally learning the supermum ideal doesn't stack up, but sadly, it comes too late for women like Betty Broderick. The parallels between Betty's story and the story of the giving tree is that both are milked by mankind until they have nothing left to give. In Betty's own words, what was the point of any of it? Both are doomed to die physical and emotional deaths without mutual love and support. From these cautionary tales we can see that as a woman we deserve better. Women need to demand better and take the initiative to foster self-care and self-love if we raise our daughters to be givers, to be mothers, to be wives, and just that, then they are nothing outside of that context, and this is where Betty Broderick found herself, on the outside, in the nothingness, without a husband, without her children, without identity, the giving wife stripped bare, just like the tree, never again able to regrow. So perhaps the lesson is this: teach our daughters to stop, replenish and nourish themselves, and let their limbs reach to the sky. Then they will be able to create a safe place for those they love to play in the shade while still standing strong themselves. If you liked that, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for listening, and I hope that might have helped or touched something, or I don't know, inspired something, or you just enjoyed it. So thank you for listening and watching, and I will see you in the next video.